So, hi everyone. I hope that you're doing well. And if you're not doing well, that's okay too. Just know that it's temporary. My name is Tristen Sky, and I'm super excited because today I'm with the wonderful Clair Moon. Hi.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Good. I'm giving you a big hug right now. I feel your energy.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. So, those of you who don't know, Claire Moon is a really, really, I feel like, how do I describe you? Like, knowledgeable, insightful astrologer. I feel like she knows her planets, the signs, just everything super, super well. I remember I got my chart read by you very quickly. And, I'm an astrologer too. I studied astrology for a while, but I feel like even you kind of like blew my mind a bit with the things you were saying. So, anyways, I think you're an amazing astrologer.
Thank you so much. We like to nerd out together with the star stuff. Yeah,
We do. Well, we're both the same rising sign. We're both
Ye-
Aquarius rising. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I like that too. Whenever something happens, I like to check up on you to see if it's like the same thing.
hmm I
Yeah.
totally think about you too. Like when I'm looking at my chart, like, and then any other Aquarius rising, including you, comes
Yeah.
into mind. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on with Tristan.
Aw. Yeah. So basically, why I thought we should get together would be to talk about some cool astrology transits happening this year. We brainstormed together and picked some interesting ones to talk about. So basically, this video is you will be the astrologer talking about all the astrology, and then I have all my cards. I can pull cards to talk about that transit as well. Sounds good?
Sounds amazing.
Cool. Okay, so what is the first one that we're talking about?
Okay, so first things first, we're going
Yeah,
to be talking about Saturn going into Pisces. Shall I share my screen and show
yeah,
everybody?
yeah, I like that idea.
Okay, so if you can see this now, what we're going to have, and it's just in a couple weeks here, but this is going to be a 3-year long transit. So what we're saying about Saturn going into Pisces is really going to be relevant for a very, very long time. So here we can see Saturn, this maroon H looking person who it's on March 7th, actually, is the exact day it will ingress, which is just a fancy word for planet going into a sign,
Hmm.
into our dear sweet little Pisces. And so, what I'm going to do is just explain Saturn really quick,
Yeah.
Pisces really quick, and then what is it to have Saturn and Pisces. I really like to anthropomorphize planets and like pretend like they're little people, and we can think about who Saturn is and what
Mm.
it's like for them to be in a place in a Piscean environment.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
yeah, so a little bit about Saturn. I think they get a bad rap, like people are like, oh no, Saturn, mommy and daddy are home. Like,
Yeah.
um, but there are some really constructive things that can happen with Saturn, namely healthy boundaries,
Yeah.
discipline, structure, form.
Yeah.
Now it can also cause delays, burdens, responsibility, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? So, it can be difficult. There can be delays. There can be challenges, but a lot of the time it is over the course of time, the more Saturnian delayed gratification that we do and discipline, then what we have at the end of it is something that is supportive. That's a foundation for something. So we can put that in a basket and set that off to the side.
Yeah.
And then where is Saturn moving into on March 7th, 2023? And it will be in there until February of 2026. So
Okay. So for a
it's
while, yeah, for a
Mhm.
while, this is okay. Continue.
Oh yeah, no, it's the open ocean in Pisces.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, if you can't see me, I'm moving my arms around like I'm in the open ocean of Pisces. Like, and it's such a mutable, flexible, changeable place. And essentially, we already can see a bit of an incongruency here with such a structure loving planet in Saturn moving into a place that doesn't inherently naturally tend towards structure. So I think like the first piece of advice that I like to give for this period of time is just if you're going to make a structure or a routine or have discipline or make boundaries around something, have them be flexible, you know? Pisces is more of it's not linear, it's very cyclic. It's like the ocean has a structure, of course, but it's seasonal, right?
Mm.
So that's kind of what we want to do. We want to be more cyclic, forgiving, like Pisces, accepting, open, all of those really beautiful almost spiritual virtues that we see in Pisces. So yeah, the more rigid we are, the harder of a 3 years it's going to be. Saturn can be rather critical, which is another thing that, again, some criticism is needed sometimes, but if it gets to be a little too much, I think it's going to be really helpful for us to pair with that a practice of self-compassion. You know, Pisces, we're accepting, we're forgiving, we are allowing what is to be, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, pairing self-compassion with maybe some of that course correction that might be happening. So when it comes to individuals, I would like everybody to, you know, if you have your chart, if you want to look it up on like www.astro.com or the Chani app or whatever app you have, you can pull up your chart and look at where Pisces is, what house that is, you know, in this kind of made up, oh, I guess it's on the 7th, but if this was a person, we would be seeing Pisces in the 7th house of partnership.
Right.
So that is where the structure and the form is going to try to be created with partners. So we can see commitment sometimes, especially if you're a day baby and you got a Pisces 7th, Saturn comes in there and it's like, it's time to get serious about this partnership. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, though it can be difficult. You know, sometimes structure is exactly what is desired or needed, even if it takes a little bit of elbow grease. So with that, what do you think of that? Did I just like scare you? Did I scare our viewers?
No, oh my God, I don't feel scared. No, well, that's a good point. I feel like no planet is necessarily good or bad, although
Right.
some are benefic, some are malefic, meaning some kind of produce good things like love, happiness, joy. And
Right.
some like Saturn, which is considered malefic, you know, like Maleficent in Disney,
Mhm.
where, you know, it does bring structure and hardships and everything like that. So one thing that I was thinking, and you can tell me if this kind of makes sense, it's kind
Yeah.
of like if Saturn is our like innate energy to, you know, have our sense of hard work and create, like, I don't want to say creating, but sure, creating like structures in our life, like bringing that
Mhm.
energy. And now it's in like the fluid, you know, Pisces energy. So
Right.
maybe all of us won't be as like hard, perhaps, I'll
Yes.
say, and be more fluid. Which is
Yeah,
good. Like you
absolutely.
said, the compassion, the sensitivity would kind of soften the edges of the super structured Saturn.
Absolutely.
Where it was in Aquarius for quite some time. So it was in Aquarius for like years too, like 4 years. Okay.
Yeah, about 3 years. Yeah.
3 years. Okay. And Saturn loves Aquarius, you know, because Aquarius is super progressive. So I feel like all of us had all this like so much energy with progressiveness of like wanting to change the world or whatever. I feel like there's a lot of like moving forward energy. So maybe now it's kind of like a break. So now people are going to be like, let's calm down. Let's just go underwater and let's just chill.
Mhm.
Um, I think the bad news or like the negative side effect was perhaps less work being made, like less things being accomplished,
Mhm.
or kind of like a standstill in the progression of society. I think it might be a little bit more, I don't know, slow.
Yeah. I think, and I like that you brought this up because it brings up a really good comparison between what it was like the last 3 years with Saturn and Aquarius, with what it's going to be like with 3 years of Saturn and Pisces, and
Mhm.
how Aquarius is this diurnal, daytime, externally influencing,
Yeah,
let's like express
yeah,
whatever this is in an
yeah,
active way, versus Pisces is a nocturnal sign. It's responsive. It
yes,
waits for things. It's a slower, it's literally a slower pace. So
yeah,
I agree with everything you said, especially the part two about it softening Saturn a bit, because Saturn in Saturn sign is literally Saturn-tastic. It is so Saturn. So like it's so rigid. It can be
yeah,
so harsh, you know, even if we are moving forward, it's like, and don't try to stop me, versus like Pisces is now we're putting water on what is a really dry
yeah.
planet, and it's going to help to make things a bit more malleable, which I'm looking forward to. We can use a softening of Saturn, I think.
Me too. I think it's, you know,
Yeah.
even though like astrologically Saturn and Aquarius is like, oh, that makes sense. These energies fit together, whereas this
Mhm.
doesn't. You know, this is what I saw. Like the images I was able to see was like Atlantis. Do you know about Atlantis?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like Atlantis you know, in in the sky, not in the sky, but like just on Earth is, why am I holding my hair? I'm not sure. But like Atlantis, and I tend to do that when I'm excited. I'm like, okay, so Atlantis is the Saturn and Aquarius. There's something very about like society and progression, but then it sank into the water, and I feel like that's the Pisces Saturn. I don't know why.
Mhm.
That just
No,
kind
I like that. It's
of, yeah.
because
Because it's like structure, but underwater.
well, yeah, and what is actually perfect about that image is that Atlantis, when it was above water, was very structured. When
Yes.
it is underwater, it started to get degraded and kind of falling apart a little bit and
Yeah.
like a little bit more, open,
Mermaid.
free, loosey-goosey. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd love to pull a card. So I
Love
was
it.
drawn towards this deck. I don't know if you know it. It's called Work Your Light by Rebecca Campbell.
Mm.
She's amazing. I love her. Such good energy. But so I want to pull a card to see like any advice we could have for all of us with this transit. Like I know it's all going to affect us differently, right? Like
Mhm.
we're Aquarius risings, so it affects our second house, but it
Mhm.
affects each rising signs a different house, but also depends what else is going on, right?
Yep.
However, the shift will affect us all collectively. So I just want to see, there's a little card that can help us.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Cool. So I'll read it and then I'll show everyone. So it says, you're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north. Okay. So I'll just show you the card. It's kind of really intense. So it kind of looks like a structure that's underwater as
It
well.
does.
Okay. All right. Hocus pocusy, witchy stuff. Okay. I almost feel like perhaps there is going to be like a reset with this transit and a lot of reflection, which is very Pisces. Pisces loves to daydream and feel. So I feel like it's going to make us kind of step back. So I feel like almost like a retrograde energy where we're going to have to like move backwards a bit. So I think, yeah. So I feel like, let's say there is that heaviness that perhaps this could bring, because it's not going to be super sharp and alert, that there might be kind of heavy, like it's damp, it's watery, to not feel into it too much, you know, to still dry ourselves off and get back onto the Saturn-esque things of life, of being constructive and progressive and hardworking. And, you know, these words I'm using are also like for our inner selves, you know, being constructive with ourselves and hardworking with
Mhm.
our emotions and stuff like that. So I feel
Mhm.
like that's what the card is saying, is to kind of not fall too much into the Pisces la 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 land, although there's
Mhm.
lots of benefits to it, but to make sure to keep moving forward, to don't
Yeah.
overthink these setbacks.
I love that. And I love just the not thinking too hard. This is a water sign.
Yeah.
We're
Yes.
feeling into it. And like this first decan, especially the first 10 degrees, the first year that Saturn is in here, it's in a place that has this other kind of rulership that is also Saturn. And so it's like Austin Coppock is another astrologer. He talks about the underlying structure that we have to feel into. And yeah, it's very much don't think too hard about it. We have to feel into it, I think.
Yeah. And I think a lot of stillness, like let's just
Yeah.
calm down still. Bring in that meditative Pisces energy. So this was perfect. I love it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's fun.
I love it.
Personal note, I'm kind of excited for Saturn to, you know, just because we're Aquarius rising and Saturn in Aquarius, I feel like there was a big hitter for me, I thought, just because it was the
Yes.
rising. Yeah. So I remember for the year of 2021, Jupiter was there at least, so I feel like it kind of helped. But I'm just over the Saturn Aquarius thing, so I'm excited for this change. I'm
Big
excited.
same. Yeah, ready to get it out of there. I now have white hairs. I need bifocals. I have had enough
Yeah,
of Saturn in my first. I feel old. Jupiter
yeah,
was great, but they abandoned us this
it did.
year. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. Okay, love that. Anything else you want to say? I think that was stunning.
I think that's about it. I think that's good. I think just, we can take our time with this.
Yeah.
Pisces has a slower pace. It's a 3-year transit, so we don't have to rush to construct something or push the river, as it were. We can
Oh,
just allow things to be built that are wanting to be built, but
yeah.
taking the accountability to do that. So I
Mhm.
think, yeah, we have time.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah. Okay, next transit we want to talk about.
Okay, so the next one we have is Pluto in Aquarius, which is
Yeah.
kind of, it's another heavy one. You know, Saturn and Pluto are probably the more heavy type of planets that we do have. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah.
So now we've got another maroonish looking fellow right here at 29 degrees currently of Capricorn.
Yeah.
And Pluto spends a very long time in each sign. They spend, I mean, better part of 15 years here in Capricorn. It's like 15 to 20 years in each sign. So another one where we have time. But this year, from March 23rd of 2023 to June 11th of 2023, we have a little preview of what it's going to be like to have Pluto in Aquarius. So here we can see, you know, in June, May, we've got Pluto then in this, and it just gets to like, does it even get to the first degree? I think it does. And then it comes back. But yeah, it's just in that first degree of Aquarius. And so Pluto, who are they? They are change. They are creation and destruction, which those go together generally, even as intense as that sounds, which is another Pluto word, is intensity.
Yes.
You know, it's transformation. That's the most common word we hear with Pluto is transformation. And absolutely, it is also themes of control, whether that is our sense of control, things that sometimes feel out of our control. We can also see power dynamics, power structures. Do I feel empowered? Do they feel empowered? Am I disempowered? And then finally, we have potentially, and it could be one of these, it could be all of these. We've got plenty of time to see. The last thing too is just like uncoverings of things that may have been hidden, repressed, suppressed. I'm being kind of an armchair therapist now, but like essentially like we want to express all the parts of ourselves, and sometimes based on circumstance, all kinds of reasons, parts of each of us can't really come out all the time. And when Pluto comes in, they say, okay, that's actually going to come out now. So when we think about it in Aquarius, this is a place of thought. It's an air sign, so it's very much mentally expressed. It's also systems. We think of like humanitarians with Aquarius and like the systems that run society, our societal ideologies, very much a place of ideas. So when we get Pluto coming into Aquarius, what are we getting? We're getting changing ideas. We're being asked to change how we think about stuff. And on more of a societal level, transforming the systems that run civilization, essentially. Yeah. I thought it was so interesting, and I'm excited to hear what you pull for your cards about this. I usually don't feel like I can talk about like societal changes in consciousness, because that's just such a huge topic, right? Like the whole society's like changing, like the lifting of consciousness or the raising of consciousness. But if there was going to be such a transit, I do feel like this one is about it, because it's asking us to do some hard changes in what we think about stuff. And Aquarius they'll take on new information, right? They're open to change, to technology, to advancing, optimizing. It's not what we've always done in Capricorn.
Right.
Like Aquarius is like, yeah, enough of your rules. We're going to go out here, you know, kind of F your rules. We're going to make our own, and it's going to be better and newer and have technology. But once they decide that, it's kind of hard to change their mind. So, you know, it's hard. It might be uncomfortable to really change how we think about things, but we have plenty of time to do that. As we know, on an individual level, it's easy to come into these like habit patterns of mind. You know, my mind always goes to this place or that place. And then it gets easier and easier for the mind to do that thing. And so Pluto comes in and says, change it, be different. It's like, okay. And then on more of that collective level, same thing, just as a society. I'm also wondering about in terms of power, you know, back in like the Industrial Revolution, when we had Pluto over in Leo on the opposite side of this wheel, we saw a lot of centralization of power. We saw a lot of power being put into one point, you know, just like the sun that rules Leo, it's one point. And we got centralization of power. I am kind of curious to see how much Pluto is about the decentralization of power and the
Right.
breaking up of.
When was this central? When was Pluto in Leo? Do you know
Yeah,
when what time
let's
that was?
let's look at it.
Okay.
50. Is that too many? Nope.
Just because that's such a great point.
I know, it's like so fascinating to me. There was a lot of like colonization happening during this period of time. Yeah, the 1940s.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
like military industrial complexes
Yeah.
coming online, the prison industrial complexes
Yeah.
coming online there. So now we're
Fascinating.
getting
Wow.
things
Okay.
like blockchain. We're getting things that are like literally opportunities. And I don't know much about blockchain, like I barely know anything, but I do know that it is one potential way that we can decentralize power. So that is very interesting. And then AI, talking about technology. And I know this is very societal, not so much for individuals to consider, although it's probably going to affect us. How do we integrate that technology into society, right? Like we're already having these things come up. But I think over this long Pluto transit, it's like, how do we integrate this into our ways of living and being?
Right.
Yeah. So those were my overall thoughts with Pluto and Aquarius. I think for individuals, it really will just be like I think one thing we can watch for in this 3 months from March until June of 2023 is essentially, are there parts of you that aren't being expressed fully, that maybe haven't had a place or an opportunity to come out? And if you feel something inside of you between March and June of 2023 wanting to be expressed, try to create a healthy space for that to come out in. Don't try to just shove it down.
Right.
Because then Pluto's like, ah. So
I
yeah,
felt
so
that.
that's what I have to say about them.
Okay. Pluto goes into Aquarius, sorry, March what again?
March
7th?
23rd.
That's my mom's birthday actually. And then when does it come again? So then it goes back
Okay.
into Capricorn and then it goes, yeah, I'm just curious.
Yep. So it is going to be March 23rd to June 11th, and then it's going to dip back into Capricorn for about 6 months
Okay.
until January 20th of 2024.
Okay.
And then it's going to spend 9 months in Aquarius again. It's going to do one little dip back. It's like a couple months. And
Okay.
then as of November 19th, 2024, then it is in there for keeps. So, once we get to November of 2024, it's in there until 2043. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it's kind of nice that we can kind of go back and forth with these energies to kind of ease ourselves into it. So I kind of like this little peekaboo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So what I was feeling with this is, I feel like we have all the signs within us, right? So we all have an Aquarius energy within us. And Aquarius really does connect the collective, right? Because the opposite is Leo. Leo is the spotlight. Leo is me.
Mm-hmm.
Leo is the ego, right? And I feel like Aquarius and Pisces, but Aquarius more kind of connects to our other people. It's our friends, our community, right? It's in our psyche though, so it happens automatically. So what I was thinking is that with Pluto here, it almost feels like we are going to start to see basically what you said, the power of us, the power of the collective, and realizing the power within other people. It's almost like able to see the power within other people, not just within myself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of strength here too. When I think of Aquarius, I always see like my image is like a bunch of people holding hands around the earth.
I love that.
Kind of see that vibe, like woo!
Yeah.
And I just feel like these like holding hand in hand with another person, I feel like it's gonna be very, very strong. Like we're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
let go. I feel like there's gonna be much more strength and unity because Pluto is powerful. So I feel like there's more power in togetherness. I just don't know, you know, if the whole world is together, then who are we fighting against? We're already all together, right? So
Right.
a part of me feels that there still might be some sort of conflict
Mm,
just because if we're holding hands on this side and you're like holding hands on that side, like I don't know. So I feel like
yeah.
there's gonna be a sense of like togetherness, but then realizing that we're actually all together. Like there's no
Right.
separation. Did any of that make sense?
It
Do
did. And I actually think it's really, that image is just very beautiful of more power together
you-
versus being separate, or this individuation that has turned into hyper individualism versus collectivism. Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. I
Yeah,
hope so.
I
Right.
feel it. I feel it. I am pulled towards a different deck. Um, so I love this deck too. It's the Tarot of Curious Creatures by Chris
Mm,
Ann. It's super cool. So this is a tarot deck. So one thing I just hope that I feel like this transit will bring a sense of oneness for people to realize that we are all one and not as different as, you know, which is very Aquarius. And I feel like
mhm,
Pluto kind of heightens that.
mhm.
Um, yeah, that's what I hope.
Totally.
Ah, okay. So the card is Three of Wands. Isn't it a cool deck? Full deer.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I'll actually read this one because I really like the words that this author uses. Okay, so Three of Wands. I'll read it and show it. It says, the arrival of exciting new opportunities. The fruits of your labor are coming into sight. Positive change, movement, the first taste of successful manifesting your desires. Beginning to see how incredible your future will be. I think like
That's
even
good.
with the imagery of this card too is like looking outward, which is also very Aquarian to look outside of us. And Aquarius is very observant. Aquarius likes to look,
Mhm.
right? Not be looked at, but to look.
Right.
So I think this will kind of unveil things, kind of like you said, kind of like the like Pluto hides, but also reveals. So there's going to be a big sense of revealing to the world around us. So I don't think it's going to be personal, kind of like your personal attachments to a boyfriend or your job, but more so like the collective consciousness of like,
Right.
what are we doing? Or what's the purpose of life? Or how can we all work together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that, like that image too, like that looking onward, like there's almost, it feels like there's a sense of expectation, but in a exciting way, not in a kind of, I don't know, repressive way of just like looking forward into how different things could be. The three, you said it was the Three of Wands, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because that's like we're planning for the future. We're
Yeah.
planning for the future,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So that makes sense too.
Yeah.
There's something else I wanted to say here. Social awareness is what I feel as well. So when I lived in Germany, what I noticed that compared to Canada is that like in Germany, people are very in their own ways, very Saturn. You know, I'm doing this and then I'm doing this. So they had less on average, they had like less social like awareness. Like I could stare at them and they wouldn't turn to look. Whereas in Canada, I just look at someone quickly and they turn automatically. Like there's more sensitivity to energy here in Canada. Does that make sense? You know, I would people watch all the time in Germany because people didn't feel it. They wouldn't even acknowledge me. But in
Hmm.
Canada, I just look at someone once and they notice. Um, I think there's going to be more social awareness with this Aquarius
Mm,
Pluto because I think it's going to unlift things, and then we start to see like the power within other people and start to see souls a lot more, like the soul
yeah.
for the soul. We're less in our little Capricorn Pluto thing, but more so
Hmm.
we're noticing our surroundings more.
Yeah,
That felt really good. I'm glad I said that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that was also really, really fascinating. Um, one other thing that I had made notes about for this was just, and this is a personal hope of mine, is that we tend to, at least in the West here, we try to look at people's challenges and we pathologize them. And we put that burden of pathology onto the person, like the individual, like, oh, there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed,
Oh yeah.
versus looking at the pathology of systems, the pathology of how our society works.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
my heart.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And look at
I
that.
yeah, I hope so. That feels so good. Oh my
Yeah.
God, delicious.
Yeah. Putting the burden on society, like this is your problem to fix. We're just having natural responses to what
Mhm.
is oppressive or
Yes,
harmful, you know?
maybe that's what I was saying. The hands holding together with strength, I mean, like in
It's
unity.
exactly what I was like. Yeah.
Picking up the same thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I almost just one more thing before we go into the next transit. There's something very neutral I find about Pluto, in my opinion. Like I said, like there's no good or bad planets, there's no good or bad signs, but
Right.
like, you know, Saturn brings structure and Venus brings love. And I always
Totally.
thought, in my opinion, that Pluto was very neutral in its
Mhm.
energies, is that it wasn't good or bad. It reveals and it hides and it's
Mhm.
powerful and it's powerless. So I feel like with this transit, and this is just my opinion, I think there's going to be a neutral sort of energy of just seeing the way things are in a neutral, objective. which is very Aquarius, being very objective about things, not subjective. So being, okay, this is objectively not working. How can we fix this? So being in a healthy form of detachment. I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
That was well said as
I
well.
love that. I
Yeah.
really love that.
Yeah.
And to that point of the neutrality of Pluto and just, you know, every planet, I mean, we're being non-dual here, you know, creation, destruction.
Yeah.
We tend to just have a bias toward creation. But if we're being really real, you know, there's plenty of examples of things being destructed or removed that are absolutely healthy and necessary and part of this cyclic structure. Like, so I totally agree. It can be a very neutral thing. And I especially, yeah, having that in Aquarius, if there's any sign that's capable of having that neutral, like objective viewpoint of things, it is Aquarius for sure. Definitely. So then, shall I move on to Aries, Libra axes and the nodes?
Yeah, this one I'm excited for. Yeah, let's
Okay.
do it. Let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
and like this almost, it kind of plays in a little bit, I think, to the Pluto and Aquarius shift. So let me share my screen again. So what we're having, looking at the true nodes here, the nodes of the moon, these are the places where we get eclipses happening. This is these little loopy-doo guys, for those of you who are watching, these are the places where the sun and the moon cross paths. And when the sun and the moon are in front of each other, behind each other, then we get, well, in front of each other, then we would get an occlusion where part of the sun gets blocked out. If it's like a lunar eclipse, we're looking at the moon and it's becoming like red, right? So that's where these happen. And they actually move backward in the order of signs.
Yeah.
So we've had them in Scorpio Taurus for a good year now. They spend about 18 months in each sign. And come July 17th of 2023, we're going to get these nodes moving over into Aries and Libra. And so just to set us up a little bit more, we can consider eclipses, which goes along with these nodes here. They kind of move a narrative along a bit more quickly, and they happen every 6 months. So it's like every 6 months, there's a bit of a chapter change. The narrative, the plot line gets shoved along pretty quickly, and it creates, it's a bit of instability, but a lot of times, again, it helps things move along. And we can look at the North Node, Rahu here, as increase. And we can look at the South Node, or Ketu, as a little bit of decrease.
Yeah.
I like to think of a garden, you know, with the North Node, we're growing, things are growing, like we're putting Miracle Grow on it, versus the South Node, we're like pruning a rose bush really aggressively so that the roses can come in even fuller next year. So when we are moving into this axis of Libra, we're going to have a lessening of Libra stuff. We're going to be pruning the bushes of our Libran areas of our chart. So look at your chart, look at where Libra is, determine those house topics, look at where Aries is, look at those topics. So in this chart here, we have 2nd house with Libra, 8th house with Aries. We're going to be pruning the bushes of Libra. What does that mean? What is Libra? Libra is cooperation. It is sometimes like almost being so, we're really careful, you know, and that can be really beautiful, being considerate and careful so that we don't harm, we don't offend people, but it can move over into censorship, self-censorship on behalf of the other. We get the themes of justice, you know, it's the scales, balance, things like that. Very much belonging, this idea of belonging. And you know, when I'm thinking about, okay, well, what does it mean to have less of that? It almost feels to me, one of the themes, less decorum, less diplomacy, less less focus on everything being glossy and having a nice sheen on it and being proper and everyone being in their place and being appropriate. And then we got Aries, which is increasing, which is going to be, I'm going to tie this a little bit back to what we were talking about, the collectivism, but this is a bit different, where Aries is like, I am going to do my own thing. I am going to individuate and self-advocate.
Yeah.
self-assert, which can be really necessary sometimes, especially for those of us like me who has a hard time standing up for myself sometimes. I'm kind of meek. I get nervous trying to self-advocate. And so for some of us, this Aries energy, I think, is actually going to help us stand up for ourselves,
Yeah.
and not worry so much about everyone around us. Now, I think at the same time, if we have a lessening in the Libra portion of our chart, we can almost have a sense of not belonging as much. Like when we individuate, it can be somewhat painful and lonely, having to go away from the group or something like that. And that's not a small thing, because just evolutionary biology, we evolved as humans in groups. You know, if we didn't have our group, we might not survive the winter. So when people get nervous about not belonging, when people get nervous about maybe harming someone else or not belonging, it comes from this very deep primal drive to cooperate and to belong, which it's neither here nor there, but we might have to contend with that a little bit. It's like, how do I not be the doormat, but not make someone else the doormat? How do I stand up for myself without harming somebody else? So it'll be definitely a balancing act, but it's certainly moving toward themes of self-advocacy, self-assertion,
Yes.
individuation here. So that was one of the wider themes. The other thing, and now this does tie in a bit with the Pluto and Aquarius. I'm wondering about this because there's gonna be a trine situation happening.
Oh.
Yeah, like, and this might be a little more in the future, and it's just for, it'll be for like a year, a little less than a year. So this is a good example. So like February of 2024, eventually, we're going to have the South Node in Libra for 18 months. We're going to have Pluto and Aquarius, and this is a trine, and this is harmonious, this is constructive. And it's like, if I'm thinking about Libra being the justice system, for instance, how can we let go? South Node is a letting go. How do we let go of some of our systems of justice that maybe aren't working, to allow some kind of Plutonian reformation, reforming things, making a new system, bringing in new ways of doing that? So when I think about, like, because at first I got kind of nervous, I was like, South Node, Libra, less justice? I don't want less justice. That's not good. But then I was like, actually, this could be okay if we think about the fact that our wider systems of how we treat each other, honestly, they're not working very well. Like a lot of them aren't. So honestly, getting rid of some of them, but then bringing in a better system, we prune those bushes so that they can grow back better. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's my like optimistic slant on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I have for those. Those were my big themes that I thought of for that.
Well, first for this 2024 one, I was thinking
Yeah.
that that would be a good time where what I feel it's kind of like it's almost like hidden gem. It's almost like let's say there's this law that how do I explain? Okay, let's do the rose bush analogy
Sure.
thing. We're removing all these bushes, but then like with the Pluto of the sense of revealing, I can almost see, oh, but there's these little flowers on the side here. Let's bring those up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best if I can describe it. So someone's like, oh my God, what about this law that we could bring? Or like something in the
Right.
background, like a hidden gem or something we forgot about. I feel like that's what that energy
Yeah.
would do.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. Okay, so what I felt, I agreed with everything you just said about the
Mm.
Aries Libra thing, and that was so well said. I like the decrease increase. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Do you know Teal Swan?
I know of them. I don't know much about their work, but I know of them.
Okay, she's super, super cool. She's anyways, so I watched her predictions of 2023, and she
Mm.
said there was going to be a decrease in like beauty and glitter and glam and glitz,
Sure.
and more increase on like let's just get the work done kind of deal. And that's what I feel is a part of these nodes. I think of Kim Kardashian, who's a Libra, and she has very Libra energy, and she's all about
Mm.
beauty and decor, and Kim Kardashian. But I almost
Totally.
feel like during this time, the stuff like that won't matter as much.
Mhm.
And I love makeup, and I love flowers, and I love drag queens, and I love to glitter up and do all these things. But at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of meaningless during that time. I think.
Mhm.
I feel like it's going to be more about the work we have to do. I see like
Yeah.
let's go for a run and work on our health, and let's I do with the fire. I do think there's gonna be more energy, which I like. I feel like people are
Right.
gonna have a bit more pep in their walk, a little bit more energy. So I get everything you're saying, being more assertive and like let's go do things. So it's not
Mhm.
about being pretty or
Yep.
beautifying our things around us, because you know so I think that's something to be mindful of. It's
Yeah.
less about the look of things because that's very Libra, the peacock feathers. But if you remove all the feathers, it looks like a little chicken, right? So it's less about the, right?
Yeah.
Libra's a peacock. Um, it's less about the appearance of things, but more about the actual stuff.
Action.
Yeah,
Like it's fire. It's like
yeah,
action oriented. Like, and
yeah,
Aries especially, it's like, let's just do it. We'll
uh,
figure it out on
yeah.
the way. If we make a mistake, we'll keep going. Like it's very, yeah, it'll just try stuff, which
Mhm.
at this point we need. Libra can kind of stutter step a little bit, almost that over censorship or over carefulness that leads
Yeah.
us to not getting anything done. So I totally agree with that. Just more action oriented with Aries.
Yeah, so I feel like with the like Aries people, I feel like they're gonna love this. I feel like people who have that, so I feel like too, people who are a bit more Libra-esque, who are a bit more, calm and like like their beautiful flowers and don't like, the chaos, the fire too
Mhm.
much. I feel like, now like just um you might need more self-care than the anyone else, I think,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like
actually a really good point.
yeah, the energy might be kind of different for you, even within all of us, we have that Libra type of energy. So that part of us will need a bit more care and loving attention. So if
Yeah.
you're a triple Libra, Libra sun, Libra moon, Libra rising, well, then you might be heavy hit because this energy is a lot different than how you exist, right? So those
Hmm.
Libra people, I feel like you might just need to hold yourself a bit more. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Absolutely. And I mean, thank you for reminding me too, because then looking at each of our charts, we can look at the Libra area of our chart
Yeah.
and predict that there's going to be a lessening, a letting go of something there.
Hmm.
Just for instance, like we've had South Node in Scorpio, that's been in my 10th house of public life.
Yeah.
And I've been letting go of scorpionic privacy in my public life. I've been more open. I've been more vulnerable. I've been
Mhm.
less paranoid. It's like, what am I letting go of? And maybe it's uncomfortable. And to your point too, like if you do have Libra sun, rising moon, that South Node, it can be a little bit of a lack of a feeling vitality.
Yeah.
So exactly, like taking care of yourself, being kind to yourself, because like that process of letting go and shedding so that we can come back fresher, 18 months later is difficult sometimes. So
Exactly.
yeah.
I think that was
Yeah.
the whole point. But I feel like all you Aries folk, all you know,
They're going to be running around.
you rule. This is our town, which is good though. We know that as well.
Yes, we need all of the energies and they all have their time in the sun.
So I'm gonna pull one card for this transit. It's Angels and Ancestor Oracle cards by Kyle Gray. I also love, 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 love Kyle Gray. I love him. He talks to angels. He's gay. And I just like that because it's kind of like, an alternative. It's not just like a priest, you know what I mean? He's like,
Yeah.
I love gay man. I love Kyle Gray.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking his course right now. He has a card reading course,
Beautiful.
and I'm taking
Oh,
it.
nice.
All right, so this is the card. It says, Elder, move beyond ancestral patterns.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay, so let me tap in. Let's see what I feel about this. I feel like this. So the image I saw, because I'm clairvoyant, so I kind of see little scenarios with this whole node axis thing. So I'll just explain what I saw. I saw in my mind it looked like a Libra, and she was like in the armadillo position, like just sad and like crying and hurt. But on the other side, I saw Aries. Like I saw my Aries friends. They were dancing in the sun and on horses and everything like that. So I think what I wanted to comment is that, this could bring a lot of good energy for a lot of people, but maybe not for a lot of other people, which is basically all of astrology. There's it all affects us differently.
Absolutely.
Um, so I feel like this card, I don't think it's a collective message. I think it might just be for the people who might struggle with this transit. And I feel
Mhm.
like this is like an invitation to like step one, hold yourself and like heal, take care of your needs, but it's also to let go and release, move away. Exactly everything you said, a lessening of the Libra stuff. So we're gonna have to let go of what things used to be. For some reason, these could be huge attachments. Like the nodes can do intense things. You can lose, you know, it could affect your family, your marriage, your job. Like it can really affect a lot of things. So I feel like it's almost know that the universe is working with you, the planets are working with you to move your soul forward. So if you lose something like a marriage or something like that during this time, it's actually pushing you forward. Like this is energy. It's like you're losing something, but it's also pushing you forward, kind of like this sort of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving beyond those patterns that we're used to. So it's almost like a good thing. It's flipping you inside out to like move forward. So then this Libra in my mind is a lot stronger. She let go of her father or her marriage or her job or her baby. She let go of something and then can go dance with the Aries and frolic in the field.
What was that card again? It was, can you read the card again?
So it says move beyond ancestral patterns.
So like even, and I don't know much about ancestral patterns, but just thinking about Libra as what we do in a more collective, cooperative way as a group, and what are those patterns that we've done in maybe our personal groups, e.g. our family group, which could be ancestral stuff,
Yeah.
our community groups.
Oh my God.
And in general, of course, it's my own personal opinion that it takes a village, and being in community and working together is so, so important, and I think it's the way. But we also know that in our individual families, family lines, there's not always the healthiest kind of ancestral dynamics. And how do we let go of some of those things even then replace the unhealthy patterns in our families or our groups with healthier ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if it's generational stuff, that's very heavy hitting. And I have no expertise on that.
Yeah. Well, I do. I do. And I love this card so much. I feel like this card well, for me, it has so much density and energy to it. Like move beyond ancestral patterns is huge for my life, because so when I pulled this card, I knew it was with reason. So that's why I feel like other people might be going through those big shifts as well. And that's why it's almost like, when you rip off a band-aid,
yeah,
it's like ripping off a band-aid, but like your whole arm comes off instead. Like you lose a big it's a huge shift. So that's just but I want to say is hang in there. Hold yourself, you got it. Just keep on trucking, you'll be okay.
that's all we can do. That's all we can do.
And then we can go towards the Aries of the fearlessness, that courage, that strength, that vitality. So go towards the North Node, during this time, because that's where we should go. So that's a good, Aries,
I don't think we'll be able to avoid it. It almost like pulls you there. Like it's like pulling us toward individuation in some part of in the Aries part of your life.
Yeah, it's like magnet.
Yeah.
I always thought they're like magnets. Cool, that's fun. Okay, so anything else you want to talk about in that little sector?
I think that's all I had. I think we did a pretty thorough job of things in our little, like, as thorough of a quick and dirty job that one can do in less than 12 hours. We could talk about it forever, but no, I think that's good.
I think that's great. Okay, well, this was just so lovely.
It really
So
was.
I know. So are you accepting clients right now?
I am, yes.
Okay.
People can find me at www.aligninglightastrology.com. You can book there. I also have a newsletter. You can sign up for that to keep up with me. I send one out once a month. I've got some live offerings on YouTube every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Central Time. I do an astrology Q&A for people. And then I do monthly forecasts at the end of every month. TBD. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have going on, and books are wide open.
Everything. Okay, so I just want to say how much I love you. I love aligning light to astrology because I just love love and light. So I love how your thing is aligning light. I love that. And I have to say, I get your newsletters and I love them. And you know what? I'm a very critical person. Like in general, I'm very critical. Like when someone cuts my hair, I'm like, okay, it has to look like this. If I do a photo shoot, it has to be perfect. So I'm very critical with everything. And I love that about myself. So if I didn't like your newsletter, I wouldn't say it. But I love your newsletter. So I hope everyone goes subscribe to the newsletter.
I know what your chart is, and I know that in the place of writing, you have high standards. And so I take
I
that
know that.
compliment
What part is that?
very Saturn in the third of writing.
Oh, I
Like
do.
we're
Oh!
mastery. This is like high standards. So I am so like that just it means a lot coming from you. So thank you.
You're welcome. Also, on that note, I also have Mars and Mercury conjunct, and I also think
Mm.
it's like a critical energy there with how things should be. And I'm realizing that,
That's the
well,
editor.
yeah, the editor, that makes sense. Cool. Okay, well, this was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, bye. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.